Stacy Lynn Harp is coaching with heart. Thank you for listening to this audio presentation. To learn more about Stacy and her coaching services, visit stacylharp.com. That's STACYL harp.com.
Welcome everybody to this edition of Coaching with Heart. Today we're going to be looking at the close friends of Jesus. Yesterday we began looking at the different types of friendships that we all have. We began with the idea of 3 circles, really 4. I put virtual friends on the outside and the far outside. Inside that, casual friends, close friends, and then committed friendships. And yesterday we looked at the issue of casual friends, and we were looking at how some casual friends of Jesus may have been the tax collectors and the sinners, and the followers, those who were in the crowds who were following Jesus everywhere that he went, he called friends. But they were not close friends. Today, we're going to look at the close friends of Jesus. And it's interesting to me because this really isn't hard to figure out. If you read the Bible, then you know that Jesus had many close friends. But still, they were few in comparison to the world, right? And, one of the misnomers I think children have and teenagers, and especially in our day and age today, is that we think that we really need to have a lot of close friends. The reality is God, Jesus in human flesh here, God in human flesh through Christ, had only really a handful. He had under a dozen close friends. In fact, many believe he had basically the disciples, and not even all those disciples were close friends, because Judas, look at what happened with him, right? But in particular, what I think of when I think of the close friends of Jesus, I actually think of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. That's who I think of. Because these are people with whom we know Jesus hung out a lot. In fact, Jesus hung out a lot with Mary, his mother, as well, and also with many women in ministry, because there's a lot of women in ministry during those times. But we know from the Bible, and in particular John chapter 11 and John chapter 12, which I'm not going to read for you, but hopefully you'll get an opportunity to go read the Gospel of John chapter 11 and chapter 12, and you'll be able to see the story of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. And you may know the story. Basically, Lazarus died, and Mary and Martha called for Jesus to come and heal him before he died, and Jesus didn't. He was like, forget it. No, actually, he was out doing ministry, and he didn't come and heal Lazarus before he died, but instead he waited. And then when he came, and eventually he did come back, everybody was crying and weeping and just amazingly overwhelmed with grief, because Lazarus had died and he had been dead for a few days before Jesus came back. And we see in this story the famous quote that we all know, we have it memorized, Jesus wept, right? Why did he weep? Because he loved Lazarus, because he was close friends with Lazarus. And as we know the story, Jesus called Lazarus forth, he came back to life, and there was rejoicing all over the place. So this is an example of the close friends of Jesus, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. And of course we see these relationships all throughout the Gospels, and at the end, when Christ himself is actually raised from the dead, we also see an intimate conversation he had with Mary, even there. So let's look at some characteristics of close friendships. First of all, close friends are those you have regular contact with. And to me, that means, if you don't live close together, you pick up a phone, you call them up. You in today's day and age, you can text them, you can Facebook them, but you have regular contact with them. I know my husband, his best friend, he has contact with them all the time. He talks to them on the phone every week. He text messages them. I have the same type of relationship with my close friends. You have mutual interests, and you do activities together. Now, what's different between this and a casual friend is that your relationship goes beyond that. You are aware of your friends' sensitivities, what they like, what they dislike, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And hopefully, because you're close friends, meaning you're good friends, you're not going to try to set them up. Like, for example, if you know your friend has a problem with alcohol, you're not going to go ahead and have dinner and have a bottle of wine in front of them. You're sensitive to them, to their likes and their dislikes. And you can offer them comfort during their trials. You're there to assist them and help them in time of need. But even more so than casual friends, you are able to be vulnerable with them and share with them your heart, your feelings. You're not going to be like, oh, everything's okay all the time. No, you're gonna say what the truth is, and you might even cry in front of them. And to me, that's an indicator of a close friend, is when you can cry and not feel awkward or feel ashamed that you're crying. I know for me personally, years ago, oh my gosh, in my years in therapy, I had the hardest time crying because I was taught in my family of origin, don't cry, just don't do it. And I had to learn to allow myself to feel those feelings when I feel them. And of course, people who listen to my radio show have heard that, because the Lord has really, really softened my heart in that regard and allowed me to feel. And so I can cry with a friend who is hurting. I have no problem doing that now. And when Jesus was there for Mary and Martha, he saw their overwhelming grief, and he felt their pain, I believe, and he wept. He wept when Lazarus was dead. And so he cried, and he felt that compassion. Also, there's limited accountability. So, in other words, a close friend, you might be able to go to them and say, you know what, I've noticed that you've been kind of slipping up here in this area. I have a good friend, and some of you know who he is, and him and I, we keep each other accountable when it comes to complaining a lot. Oh my gosh. When I see him being really negative about things, I'm like, are you being thankful? And then when I'm complaining, he'll go, are you being thankful? What are the, and so it's somebody you can kind of nudge a little bit and say, hey, I noticed here that this is, an area where you might want to, commit it more to the Lord and grow up a little bit. And of course, you're going to pray for that person. You're going to lift them up in prayer. The book of Amos in chapter 3, in verse 3 says, do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? Of course. People, if you have a close friend, that is someone you have chosen to walk with. That is somebody that you have chosen to be your friend. And you've chosen to be vulnerable with that person, and they have chosen to be with you. Now, let me tell you something that I want you to think about, and that is that close friends, if it's a real close friend, that relationship is going to go both ways. And what I mean by that is that it's not going to be an unbalanced relationship where you are sitting there listening to all your friends' problems, but they never listen to yours. A healthy, close relationship is where you can sit and listen to that person's problems, and then they go, okay, now you share with me your heart and tell me your problems. Or you can sit there with your friend and you can be with them in their pain, and you can feel their pain, and then they can sit with you and they can be with you in your pain. And even more so, because sometimes it's easier to do the pain thing, even more so, a really good close friend is somebody who can rejoice with you when something good happens to you. And they don't get all jealous and envious and go, oh my gosh, I wish that, blah, blah, blah. How come that never happens to me? And blah, blah, blah. And they're, a really good friend, a close friend is going to rejoice with you when good things are happening to you. And hopefully those friends as well are going to, be somebody who is going to be a part of that blessing in your life. So today, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the close friends of Jesus. And my hope and my prayer for you today is that as you consider those close friends that you've been given, that you thank God for them today.
Thank you for listening to this audio presentation. To discover more resources from Stacy Lynn Harp, clinically trained marriage and family therapist and biblical coach, visit stacylharp.com. That's STACYL harp.com. Coaching with Heart.